The paper crinkled loudly beneath Elena as she jerked upright on the hospital bed. "What did you just say?" Adrian didn't move from the door. His hand was still on the handle like he might leave at any second. His voice, when it came again, was calm. Too calm. "I want a divorce." For a second, Elena thought the fluorescent lights were playing tricks on her ears. Her chest tightened, breath catching halfway like her body refused to process the words. "You're joking," she said, a weak laugh slipping out. "This isn't funny, Adrian. Not here." "I'm not joking." The words dropped between them, heavy and final. Elena stared at him, searching his face for anything. Regret, hesitation, even anger. But there was nothing. Just that cold, distant expression he'd perfected over the years. They were in a hospital room, waiting. For 3 weeks she'd been running tests, blood work, scans. 3 weeks of fear, of imagining the worst. And this was the moment he chose? "You're doing this now?" Her voice cracked despite her effort to stay composed. "While I'm waiting to find out if I'm sick?" Adrian's jaw tightened. He looked away. "That's exactly why," he muttered. Elena blinked. "What does that even mean?" Before he could answer, the door opened. A woman in a white coat stepped in, holding a file. She froze when she saw the tension thick in the room. I'm sorry," the doctor said carefully. "Should I come back?" "No," Elena said quickly, her voice sharper than she intended. "Just say it." Her fingers curled tightly against the edge of the bed. Her heart pounded so hard she could hear it in her ears. "Is it cancer?" Adrian asked suddenly. Elena's head snapped toward him. His voice wasn't cold anymore. It was tight, strained. The doctor shook her head slowly. "No, it's not cancer." The air shifted. Elena felt something inside her chest loosen, just slightly, but the weight didn't disappear, because Adrian's words were still there, echoing. "Divorce." "Then what is it?" she whispered. The doctor hesitated, glancing between them like she could feel the fracture in the room. "Mrs. Blackwood," she began gently. "You're pregnant. Approximately 11 weeks. Silence. Elena blinked. Once. Twice. Her hand moved instinctively to her stomach, fingers trembling as they pressed lightly against the fabric of her dress. "Pregnant?" she repeated, the word foreign on her tongue. 11 weeks. Her mind scrambled. The nausea, the exhaustion, the dizziness. She had been preparing herself to hear she was dying. Instead, she turned slowly toward Adrian. He looked like the ground had disappeared beneath him. "That's not possible," he said hoarsely. "We barely—" Elena's voice cut through his words. "The lake house," she said quietly. "Your birthday." His mouth snapped shut. The memory hung between them. The doctor cleared her throat awkwardly. "I'll give you both a moment." The door clicked shut behind her. And then it was just the two of them. Elena stared at him. 4 years of marriage. 4 years of loving him, supporting him, standing beside him while he built his empire brick by brick. And now... "You are going to leave me," she said slowly, her voice dangerously calm. "You thought I might be dying, and you were going to leave me. If this story is already pulling you in, take a second to hit that subscribe button. Because the truth behind this marriage, it only gets worse from here." Adrian dragged a hand through his hair, pacing once before stopping again. "You don't understand." "Then explain it to me," she snapped, sliding off the bed despite the weakness in her legs. "Because right now, it looks like my husband decided I was disposable." "That's not what this is." "Then what is it?" she demanded. He looked at her then. Really looked. And 4. The first time she saw something flicker behind his eyes. Fear. "I'm trying to protect you," he said. Elena let out a disbelieving laugh. "Protect me? By divorcing me?" "You're not safe with me, Elena." The words hit harder than anything else he'd said. Her breath stilled. "What are you talking about?" Adrian hesitated. For a moment she hoped, he might finally tell her the truth. But then his expression shut down again. "It's complicated." Her chest tightened. "No," she said, shaking her head slowly. "No, you don't get to do that. You don't get to drop something like this and then hide behind complicated." He didn't respond, didn't even try, and something inside her cracked. "Is there someone else?" she asked quietly. His silence was immediate and devastating. Elena felt her stomach twist. Not from pregnancy this time, but from something far worse. "Oh my God," she whispered. "There is." "No, you don't even have to say it," she cut in, backing away from him. "I can see it." "It's not what you think." "Then what is it?" she shot back. Again, silence. That was answer enough. Elena pressed her lips together, forcing back the tears threatening to spill. She wouldn't cry. Not here, not in front of him. "Get out," she said softly. Adrian's head lifted. "Elena, get out!" Her voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. He hesitated for a fraction of a second. Then he turned and walked out. The door closed behind him with a quiet click, and the silence that followed felt louder than anything she had ever heard. Elena stood there for a long time, staring at the empty space he had left behind. Her hand drifted back to her stomach. Pregnant. Alone. And suddenly, unsure of everything she thought she knew about her own life. The apartment was too quiet. Elena stood in the middle of the living room, arms wrapped around herself, staring at the half-unpacked boxes scattered across the floor. The place was smaller than what she was used to. No floor-to-ceiling windows, no polished marble, no staff moving quietly in the background. Just silence. And her thoughts. She exhaled slowly and sank onto the couch, her hand instinctively resting on her stomach again. Pregnant. The words still didn't feel real. Neither did the divorce. Her phone buzzed on the coffee table. She glanced at the screen. Adrian. Her chest tightened. For a moment, she just stared at it, her thumb hovering over the screen. Then it stopped. No voicemail. No message. Just like him, always almost saying something, but never quite enough. Elena let out a shaky breath and leaned back, closing her eyes. 3 days. 3 days since she walked out of that hospital room. 3 days since her entire life split into before and after. And still, nothing made sense. A soft knock on the door pulled her out of her thoughts. She frowned. She wasn't expecting anyone. Slowly, she stood and walked over, hesitating before opening it. A woman stood on the other side. Tall, elegant, composed. Blonde hair pulled into a sleek low bun. Minimal makeup, but flawless. The kind of woman who looked like she belonged in Adrian's world. Elena's stomach dropped. "You must be Elena," the woman said gently. Her voice was calm, careful. Elena didn't move. "Who are you?" The woman hesitated, like she was choosing her words very carefully. "My name is Sophie." The name hit harder than it should have. Elena's grip tightened on the door. Of course it was her. "So it's true," Elena said quietly, a bitter edge creeping into her voice. "He didn't even wait." Sophie's brows pulled together slightly. That's not… Save it, Elena cut in. I'm really not in the mood to hear whatever version of this you've convinced yourself is acceptable. She started to close the door. Your husband didn't leave you for, me. The words stopped her. The door froze halfway shut. Elena slowly looked back at her. What? Sophie didn't move, didn't step forward. Just stood there, calm but serious. I know what it looks like, she said softly. But I didn't take your husband. Elena let out a short, humorless laugh. Right. You just happened to appear at the perfect time? I was sent. Silence. Elena blinked. What? Sophie held her gaze. I was sent to get close to him. The words hung in the air, heavy and unbelievable. Elena stared at her, searching for any sign that this was some kind of joke. I don't have the patience for games, Elena said flatly. This isn't a game. Sophie reached into her bag slowly, pulling out a thin folder. I didn't come here to fight you, she continued. I came because you deserve to know what's really happening. Elena didn't take the folder. Not yet. What are you talking about? Sophie's expression hardened slightly. Your husband's company isn't just struggling, she said. It's being dismantled. Elena's stomach twisted. That doesn't explain. It's his mother. That stopped everything. Elena went still. Sophie continued carefully. She's been pulling investors out quietly, redirecting funds, creating pressure from every angle. Elena shook her head slowly. No, that doesn't… Adrian would have told me. He didn't tell you because he was trying to keep you out of it. Elena's chest tightened. That's not… She started, but the words didn't come out as confidently as before. Sophie stepped forward slightly, holding out the folder. I was brought in to replace you, she said plainly. Someone more suitable, more controllable. The words felt like a slap. Elena stared at the folder. You expect me to believe that? I expect you to read it. A long silence stretched between them. Then, slowly, Elena reached out and took it. Her fingers trembled slightly as she opened it. Documents, bank transfers, messages, conversations. Her eyes scanned quickly at first, then slower, then stopped completely. Her breath caught. No. Her voice barely came out. Sophie watched her quietly. It's all there, she said. Every move, every plan. Elena flipped another page, and another. Her chest tightened with every line. This wasn't just pressure. This was calculated, deliberate. Her hand shook slightly as she lowered the folder. He knew? She asked. Sophie hesitated. Not all of it, she admitted. But enough. Elena's throat tightened. Then why… She swallowed hard. Why didn't he tell me? Sophie's eyes softened. Because he thought leaving you would keep you safe. The words hit harder than anything else. Elena felt like the ground shifted beneath her again. Safe. By breaking her. By walking away. Her laugh came out weak and unsteady. That's insane. Maybe, Sophie said quietly. But fear makes people do things that don't make sense. Elena shook her head, pacing a few steps into the apartment. No, he doesn't get to decide that. He doesn't get to hurt me and call it protection. I'm not saying what he did was right. Then what are you saying? Elena snapped. Sophie met her gaze. I'm saying he didn't stop loving you. The words lingered in the air. Elena's chest tightened painfully. Love doesn't look like this, she said, her voice quieter now. No, Sophie agreed softly. It looks like someone who didn't know how to fight the right way. Silence filled the room. Elena looked down at the folder in her hands. Everything she thought she knew. Everything she believed. It was all shifting. Again. Her hand moved slowly to her stomach. Pregnant. Caught in the middle of something far bigger than she realized. She closed her eyes briefly, then exhaled. When did you realize, she asked, that I was being used? Sophie gave a faint, bitter smile. The moment I saw the way he looked when he said your name. Elena's eyes lifted slightly. He tried to hide it, Sophie continued. But he couldn't. A long pause. Then Elena spoke, her voice steadier now. He should have told me. Yes, Sophie said. He should have. Elena nodded slowly, but her jaw tightened. And now, he's going to. Sophie studied her carefully. What are you going to do? Elena looked toward the window, her reflection faint in the glass. For the first time since the hospital, she didn't look broken. She looked decided. I'm going to hear the truth, she said quietly. And then? Elena's gaze hardened slightly. Then I decide if he's worth it. What she didn't know was that Adrian had already made a decision that would change everything. The room fell silent again. But this time, it wasn't empty. It was building toward something, and neither of them could stop what was coming next. Adrian didn't expect her to come back. When the door to his office opened, he barely looked up at first. He'd been staring at the same document for 10 minutes without reading a single word. But then... Elena. Her name left his lips before he could stop it. She stood there, composed, calm. But her eyes were different. Not broken, not confused, clear. You're going to tell me everything, she said. No greeting, no hesitation, just truth. Adrian slowly stood, his chest tightening. You shouldn't be here, he said quietly. Elena let out a soft, almost tired laugh. That's funny, because from what I've just learned, I should have been here a long time ago. His jaw clenched. What did you find out? She stepped forward and dropped the folder onto his desk. It landed with a sharp thud. Enough! Silence filled the room. Adrian stared at it, then ran a hand over his face. I didn't want you involved in this, he said finally. Elena's expression hardened. You don't get to decide that for me. His head snapped up. You don't understand how dangerous this is. Then explain it to me, she shot back, her voice rising for the first time. Because the last time I checked, divorcing your wife in a hospital room isn't exactly protection. The words hit. Hard. Adrian exhaled slowly, like he was running out of ways to avoid this. My mother is dismantling everything, he said. My company, my investors, everything I built. I know. That stopped him. She's been planning it for months, Elena continued. Maybe longer. Adrian laughed bitterly. Of course she has. And you thought the best way to deal with that was to push me away? I thought it was the only way to keep you out of it. Elena shook her head, disbelief flashing across her face. So instead, you hurt me. I chose the damage I thought I could control, he said quietly. Her breath hitched slightly. And you thought breaking me was manageable? Adrian didn't answer. Because there was no good answer. The silence stretched between them, thick with everything unsaid. Then Elena spoke again, softer this time. I was in that hospital room thinking I might be dying. Adrian's eyes closed briefly, and you looked at me and decided I wasn't worth fighting for. I never stopped fighting for you, he said, his voice low. Then why did it feel like you gave up so easily? That question lingered, and for the first time, Adrian didn't have a shield to hide behind. Because I was afraid, he admitted. Elena blinked. I was afraid I was going to lose everything, he continued. My company, my name, you. His voice tightened. And I didn't know how to save all of it at once. Elena's chest rose slowly as she took that in. So you chose for me, she said. Yes. The honesty was brutal, and somehow worse than a lie. A long silence followed. Then Elena took a step closer. You don't get to do that again, she said firmly. Adrian met her eyes. I know. No. She shook her head. Not I know. You understand it. He didn't look away. I do. Another silence, but this one felt different, less sharp, more fragile. Elena's gaze dropped briefly, then lifted again. I'm pregnant, she said. I know. Do you? She challenged softly. Because this changes everything. His eyes flickered. It changes what I'm willing to risk, she continued. Not what I'm willing to walk away from. Adrian's chest tightened. Are you walking away? He asked quietly. Elena didn't answer immediately. Instead, she studied him. Really studied him. The man in front of her wasn't the same one from the hospital. He looked tired, worn down, but real. For the first time in a long time. I don't know yet, she said honestly. That answer hit harder than anything else, because it wasn't rejection, but it wasn't forgiveness either. It was uncertainty, and that was something Adrian had never been good at handling. I can fix this, he said quickly. I'll deal with my mother. I'll rebuild everything. Just stop. The word cut through him. You don't fix this with promises, Elena said softly. Her voice wasn't angry anymore. It was steady, grounded. You fix this by showing up, she continued. Consistently, without running. Adrian swallowed. I will. She held his gaze for a long moment. Then, slowly, she stepped closer, close enough that he could feel her breath. This doesn't fix anything, she said quietly. I know. And this time, he meant it. He didn't move, didn't reach for her, didn't try to close the distance. And maybe that was why she did. Her fingers brushed lightly against his shirt, like she was testing something fragile. Then she leaned in and kissed him. Soft, careful, not like before, not like everything was okay, but like something was still there, something worth trying for. When she pulled back, her eyes searched his. This is your one chance, she whispered. Adrian nodded. I won't waste it. 2 weeks later, Margaret Blackwood didn't expect her son to walk into her office unannounced. But when he did, she knew something had changed. You're late, she said coolly, not looking up from her desk. I'm not here for a meeting. That made her pause. She looked up slowly. And for the first time, she saw it. The difference. You've made a decision, she said. Yes. Adrian stepped forward. You're done interfering in my life. Her lips curved slightly. Am I? Yes. The confidence in his voice was new, unshakable. You've taken enough, he continued. From my business. From my marriage. You didn't just try to control my life. You tried to replace the woman I chose. I was protecting you. No, he said calmly. You were controlling me. The words landed heavier than shouting ever could. Margaret's expression hardened. You think you can survive without me? Adrian didn't hesitate. Yes. Silence, then. For the first time in my life, I'm choosing something you can't touch. Her eyes narrowed. And what is that? Adrian's voice didn't waver. My family. Months later, the hospital room felt different. Warm. Quiet. Peaceful. The same room that almost ended her marriage was the one where everything began again. Elena lay back against the pillows, exhaustion written all over her face. But she was smiling. In her arms, a tiny, fragile life. Adrian stood beside her, his hand gently brushing against the baby's cheek. She's perfect, he murmured. Elena glanced at him. You stayed, she said softly. He looked at her. I learned how to. A small silence passed between them. Not awkward, not tense, just calm. I didn't stay because you asked, Elena said after a moment. Adrian nodded slowly. I know. She shifted slightly, looking down at their daughter. I stayed because you finally gave me a reason to. Adrian's throat tightened. He leaned down, pressing a soft kiss to her forehead, then to their child. And for the first time, it didn't feel like something was about to fall apart. It felt like something had finally been built the right way. Elena closed her eyes briefly, her hand resting over theirs. And in that quiet moment, everything that had almost broken them had somehow led them here. If you believe love deserves a second chance, subscribe and tell me, would you have stayed?